Ready? Guess I can hear you. All right, good morning. Today is Tuesday, February 6th, 2024. It's 7:31 a.m. in the council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. And this is a regular monthly meeting of Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Board of Commissioners. Roll call. For the record, I am Chairman Eric Paul presiding. Also present are commissioners Tom Bacoe, Ned Brandenberger, Jason Welker. Absent are Marilyn Sabella and Ken Perry. We have City Finance Director Sarah Lyons and Construction Manager Eric Bush joined us this morning. And I'd also like to welcome Sandpoint's new mayor, Jeremy Grimm. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Eric. Nice to be here, everyone.
Item 3, meeting minutes approval. The first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of December 12th, 2023. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Motion. So moved. Chairman Welker.
Second.
Chairman Bacoe. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public in attendance?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Item 4, financial report. The next item on the agenda is the monthly financial report. All account balances are as of February 1st, 2024. Downtown general account, we have a 92,000. That is, should be, that's not right. Combined balance is 94,000. I need to amend that. I need to get that information for you. That's incorrect. Okay. So the revenue allocation fund, I think, well, it's 94,000 approximately, and that is our payment reserve. So what, how do I amend that or strike that out?
Mr. Chairman, you can just indicate that that's incorrect and that you will correct the record at the next meeting.
Okay. Because it's going to be more in line of, I don't have last month.
I can grab last one's if you'd like me to.
That's all right.
Mr. Chairman, in the ballpark though, roughly.
Yeah. Yes, approximately 94,000 ish. It only increased by interest between December and now. The northern account has 4,371,900. The downtown loan balance is, oh, I know what I did wrong. I need to update. What can you get the December report?
Yeah, I can. I'll just bring it up here online. Give me just a second. And I also see that Marilyn is registering, and I'm going to change her over to a panelist.
I missed that. Dang it.
Marilyn, can you hear us okay?
Were you able to pull up the December minutes?
Yep. Second, I gotta make a note of what time she joined.
Sorry about this, everybody. So much for a quick meeting. I will report the downtown loan balance of $891,912.67 is correct. Our next payment due is March 15, 2024. We did receive increment in January, $10,330.49 in the northern, $13,667.27 in the downtown. Art funds, we have $163,102. Northern, we have $92,030.63. That's as of February 1st. We've advanced $18,315.22 on the Silver Box project. There's a remaining balance of $1,684.68. So that's November 30.
Yeah, that's from, this is the agenda and the financial report from the December meeting.
So the revenue allocation fund account to Jeremy's note is approximately exactly ish 95,000 plus with the interest. I will get updated balances. The northern balance I reported is 4,371,900 is accurate. The downtown fund it would be 866 plus our increment. So just under 880 would be our balance with interest, but I will get updated. 980, excuse me. I'll get updated balances to Melissa. Again, I apologize for that. Are there any questions on the financial report?
Mr. Chairman, just curious, the interest and the rate that our northern district is accruing. Do you have rough, I don't need specifics, but just rough details on what that rate is? And
I do not at this time. I can get it for you.
and I'm only asking because I know that the city has funds, and one of the funds Sarah is able to put dollars into has pretty substantial,
Right now, it's like 5%.
Yeah.
like 5%.
Yeah.
CIP, yeah.
And it just may be worth looking at the availability of that fund for certain holdings.
I don't know if we can go into LGIP.
The what?
I don't know if we can go into the LGIP,
I don't
can we?
know. I don't know.
I don't know,
I'd have to look
It's
at
sort of
that.
the
We kept it liquid on purpose because we didn't know when we were gonna be funding the Great Northern Project. It
Sure.
keeps getting kicked around, but
Yeah.
maximizing earnings would make sense because the rates will be dropping.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Are there any other announcements or reports from the board or city staff or from the mayor?
Mr. Chairman, if
Yes.
I may, since we're going into Great Northern as the next item, last month, or last meeting, when we were discussing some Great Northern items, there was some specific drawing, et cetera, questions about the layout of the project. I do have those available today if we'd like to discuss them, but I'll leave that up to you all.
Okay, should we do that now? Or under new business with the? That's a payment invoice, just to do it now, Eric.
Okay.
For the, were you here, Jason, at the last meeting?
I wasn't. No.
So we're talking about the intersection at Gooby and Mountain View. Yep. And possibly Great Northern.
And I've got a couple different.
Baldy.
I've got a couple different iterations of this. This is a overlay on Google Earth, but I also have a drawing we can look at if that is easier to digest. But this is our Gooby intersection right here. It is a little bit messy with all these lines because we're containing some things in this that are for design purposes. But more or less, Great Northern runs an existing profile from the south coming up to Gooby. You can see right here is where our intersection changes quite a bit. So it currently splits off to the west and then continues to go northeast there. Our new alignment will turn this into a stop bar intersection. This is a stop bar right here. So if you were coming north on Great Northern, you will hit this stop bar to turn left onto Gooby if you were going that way.
Stop bar means stop sign?
Yes, correct.
Sorry, Eric, can you clarify that for me? So
Sure.
if you're going left on Gooby, there is a stop sign for you
Correct,
from Great
From Great
Northern
Northern.
going north.
correct.
I see. Okay, so but if you're going right, you're gonna stay on the right lane and just keep driving, correct?
Well, and that hasn't been determined yet, whether or not that'll be a continual path or that will also be stop sign controlled. But this intersection is designed, and is being designed as a T intersection. So we can, control our, minimizing queuing, potential on, Gooby here if you're going west.
Gotcha.
So if there's a line up here, you would be queuing back this way instead of potentially queuing in some manner across a track. From there, if you're continuing on Great Northern at Gooby, our new alignment, this is our existing alignment of Great Northern under here. Our new alignment goes east and borders, this is the Silver Wings development adjacent to the airport. borders the Silver Wings development, comes through Turbine Drive and then back to our, existing alignment.
Is this like a right of way swap? Are we exchanging right of way? Will the existing right of way be given over to private property?
That's to be determined, but likely, yes. If we end up, with our final layout going this direction, it will be likely that we will, give that current right of way back to those landowners, this, strip of right of way in this location. Same property owner owns this parcel as this parcel, so if we vacate this, their parcel becomes continuous again.
Mhm.
And does that same party also own the right of way that we would have to purchase next to the Silver Wings project?
Yes, they do.
Have they been approached about this?
Not yet.
Is there only one wide right of way acquisition, or is it or acquisition, and do we have to get one further north?
We have to get right away pretty much on the whole extent of our project from, north to south. But this is, obviously a big, chunk of our right of way needs and one of our most complicated acquisitions because of the amount of property we're requesting from these landowners compared to some of the other ones further north. As we get a little bit further north, we're just, more or less taking, additional right of way that is necessary for our road realignment.
So back to Gooby, that jog, if you will, is that 2 lanes, 3 lanes? How's it going to be structured?
This will be 2 lanes coming into here, so there will be a, left turn lane and a right turn lane. If you're coming north on Great Northern. It will be 1 lane until you approach the intersection.
Right.
And then it will have 2.
Okay,
And are we still planning to accommodate a detached shared use path?
Yes, we are.
Great.
That will be along the east side of the trail, for the entire extent.
and for commercial trucking, is that corner angle sufficient?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
We're this, all the angles and site triangles, et cetera, the technical side of this for transportation is being designed for the, largest semis that are made, sleeper cabs with 38-foot trailers, I believe.
Will that have the ability to be the silent crossing,
Yes,
both sides?
I believe so, yes. Our intention is for any of these crossings we're improving on, this project, you know, there's 4 of them here. On Great Northern, that all of those, will be designed with quiet crossing in mind. Eric, they may not, necessarily at the end of the project be quiet zone compatible right off the bat. And that's because BNSF, prefers to minimize the quiet zones if they can within reason because of the costs associated with monitoring and running them. But our design will basically be ready to go. If quiet zone is, you know, a desire, we'll be ready to install that right away. And it's likely that 1 or 2 of these intersections will come in on this project with quiet zone included. But at this point of the project, I can't speak to that with, a level of confidence. We'll know a little bit more, I would say, in the next 6 months, and I can update you as we find more information.
Sure. Can you go down to the Baldy
Sure.
intersection now, please? Eric, thanks.
Oops. And this is the Baldy intersection, and this has probably changed a little bit since the 2021 feasibility study that JUB prepared. That alignment of Great Northern showed it coming through this Bonner County structure here.
Right.
And coming intersecting Baldy further east. That is, from a traffic perspective, that would be the ideal solution. We can get, anytime you can get an intersection further away from a railroad crossing, that's better. As well as just from general traffic, aligning these intersections in that manner would be better. However, there's a significant cost associated with, you know, acquiring this amount of property with structures on it. So we decided to just avoid that and We're still gonna have a very high quality, safe intersection in this location. We just were able to do it without that large quantity of additional acquisition.
Is there a way to quantify kind of the current state with that initial plan that was further away from the crossing to kind of like the, you know, middle point plan here, like, how much more safe is this than what we currently have, or how do we evaluate that? Cause I mean, I use that intersection, you know, usually about once or twice a week during the winter, and then it's miserable now, so, yeah.
I could ask our traffic engineers if they could, if there's kind of a standard or data available that they reference when, you know, on their end when they're thinking about intersection design. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can certainly look into that.
So we know it's better, we just, than the current
Yeah,
state.
and the biggest improvement with this intersection is having it squared up. Anytime you have an intersection that comes at a, you know, non-90-degree angle, you have difficult sight from one way or another. You know, the great example is Highway 2 on the west side of town, and all of
Another
our
one I don't
neighborhood
like.
streets coming in. You know, those are tough intersections, much like this one is. And just by the nature of squaring that up and having a 90-degree T angle, your visibility is so much better, and it's a lot safer because you're not having to creep forward or pull out to actually be able to, you know, make sure the road is clear before you get going.
But that sight line doesn't if you look east, when you're at that intersection, when you stop, want to get on Baldy, there's that utility pole just down. It's still gonna be in the way to a certain, with your vision.
Are you talking about the one that is, if I believe, right, like in here on the west side of the
On
tracks?
the east,
East.
there's
There's
a
a,
giant, it's a big
It's
steel
giant
pole.
metal
big
one, yeah.
Oh, yes, this, in this location.
No, other side.
east.
You can see it right there.
Yeah, you see.
Oh,
the
this
shadow.
guy, yes, I'm with you, yes. I believe that our, if you.
That's one of the worst parts.
Yeah, this is again our stop bar here in this location. So I believe, and I'll double check on that, Eric, that's a great question. That you will be far enough forward at
Okay.
this location to where that won't impact your view, but I'll
Okay.
check.
Thank you.
Yeah, because moving it more towards that way almost makes that worse.
Right,
That's
and
that
you're
particular
right,
sight
because that at the base of that pole, it's like 7 foot in diameter.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
Yeah,
line. And then if I'm coming south and I'm heading west, so we have a crossing on the east side of the intersection, but on the west side, so if I'm making a right, is there anything blocking me from the tracks?
No. You would be able, besides, you know, traffic control gates at the tracks, of course, if there was a train coming. But other than that, no.
But there aren't arms that are coming down to prevent somebody from going right over the tracks
No,
if a train's coming.
no,
Is that an issue?
maybe I'm not following you. Ask me your question again.
So if I'm coming south, so I've got the gates right here.
No, that's not the
No,
case.
that's just, striping on the road and a crosswalk.
So the gates are.
The gates would be direct,
Here?
yeah,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so if I am going right,
There's no risk of going through the track if there's a train coming, correct?
I live that way and there has never,
Yeah.
that's non-used track.
It's not
It's,
used, yeah.
that next one is for
That,
sure.
all
But
those,
that one there is, I think a storage.
yeah, they store like maintenance
Yeah,
equipment on those
yes,
tracks there.
Yeah.
So there isn't any gates now. I don't know if there would be then, but I don't know why there would be because.
That would be dependent on BNSF, you know, if that was,
so that's
I
just that's an ungated stop then.
Yes.
I believe
Right
so,
now it is,
yeah.
yes, it is.
Every time I go over there, especially during the middle of the day, there's always guys welding or chipping or hammering away at something. So it seems like that's, you know, kind of where they do some of their maintenance.
Eric, last year or the year before, we did a new, was it a sewer main or a water main underneath Gooby from the east to the west? Was that before you were here? Was it-
That was before I was here.
Do you know if that project was completed?
Yes,
Is this gonna affect that? Like, will we be undoing any of the,
I doubt it.
okay?
No,
That was a
we'll
little
be-
bit further north in the intersection, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
that was like an emergency that had like, I think the thing was sloughing away into
Okay.
the railroad tracks are coming down or.
Oh, you're talking about the culvert under the railroad tracks,
Was it a
the
culvert?
grouting?
It was the water main.
It was a water main.
Yeah.
I'm not
I
familiar,
think
but,
that was just north of Gooby though.
Jason, what I can say with confidence is that, our utility team is working with our internal utility team, Rod and Chet and his crew, to make sure we're aligning everything and picking up everything, that we're not missing any utility. So I'll double check, but I'm, pretty certain that one's been accounted for as well.
And then the other crossing was Mountain View.
Yes.
That's going away.
Potentially, that decision has not been, formalized, but that is, a discussion point right now.
But that would have to get removed to get some of the BNSF grant money to remove crossing, right?
That's correct, yes. We're right now, having coordination meetings with BNSF. They have 2 grant opportunities available, federal grant opportunities available. Based on our meeting last week, it seems like we're going to, approach city council for approval to actually apply for both grants. Because, if we're not successful in the first, our application will be able to just roll over into the other grant. So it gives us multiple opportunities, which is great. And both grants are focused a little bit different. One is called rail crossing elimination. So obviously, you know what the goal of that one is. And the other one is just, more general kind of rail line improvements or rail line adjacency improvements. So I'm feeling pretty confident that we will be successful with one of the 2. But those applications are not out yet. We expect them to be out sometime this spring, maybe April.
So the elimination grant, if you receive that, BNSF pays for the decommissioning of the rail line, then in turn, the city would receive some funds that could be applied to the realignment. That's great. Is that how that works?
I think generally the way it works is, we would just get a pot of money and as a part of our project, we would complete all of those upgrades with BNSF's approval. So we would still be, sending drawings, et cetera, to BNSF, but they would not be completing the work. We would with our contractors.
So if you decommission that, the work would be, you have to tear it out? The crossing? I mean, what's your work costs or?
Oh,
Yeah.
if we close Mountain View in this location, there's a couple different ways we could go. One, and what you kind of see here would just be a little cul-de-sac. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to keep this stretch of Mountain View active if we close the crossing.
Right.
So we may, end up closing Mountain View back here. Because there's no reason to have it go any further east. And that's something we just haven't made the decision on yet. Of course, if we are successful in a grant application.
So your money will be spent there, not on Great Northern?
Well, our money
That's
would
what I'm
be,
asking.
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm asking. Would the funds go to the building of Great Northern?
Yes, I mean, we would be spending money off of Great Northern to answer your question. But it is in service of our closure of Mountain View to realign Great Northern.
So they don't do anything to really kind of sweeten it to say, yeah, we would actually like to not have a crossing because each crossing costs them money, on average. So we get paid to do the work to close the crossing, but we're not getting anything on top of that to maybe apply to the Great Northern project.
I mean, the rest of their funding would apply to the Great Northern project. So
Reduce our costs.
yes, it would reduce our costs. So just pulling out, let's say this Mountain View stretch costs 5% of our total project budget. The remainder would, especially our grant funds would be applied elsewhere on Great Northern.
Okay.
So we do get something by.
Oh, absolutely.
Closing it down.
Yes, the potential for these grant applications is, millions. It's significant money. So, we may have to do some additional things like this in order to, get that money. So I am comfortable, relocating Mountain View. There's a lot of work to be done. But theoretically closing Mountain View because of the potential benefit it could give us for the rest of the project.
And then how's the impact? So now everybody on Mountain View going north kind of through the subdivision there. Like how much traffic are we talking about there?
Our traffic engineers are actually looking at that data right now. But from what we can tell, the increased traffic load through this subdivision here would be very minimal. don't quote me on these numbers, but I think it's something less than 50 to 75 cars a day.
That has to account for all the houses to the west as well. And up Mountain View.
Up Mountain View, but further, well,
Significant housing.
A lot of housing.
yeah.
And those
So-
people are now gonna have to drive down to Baldy on a dirt road or go through. What's that name? Cole.
I always draw a blank on the name of
It's
the
Timber,
That street has a name, it's like Coleman, I think.
You're right.
Goodman.
Drive.
Yes.
Yeah, and to answer your question, Eric, or provide a little bit more information, there's a lot of partnerships that we are working with to make sure we're accounting for all of this appropriately. You know, we've been having meetings with Bonner County, obviously to update them, and we're scheduling a meeting here soon with IHD as well to update them on this progress. And this is not a decision that we're just gonna make and say, you know, we're closing Mountain View. This is a decision that we will make with city council, with, you know, public input, all of those other items. So this currently is a discussion point. Obviously, it's on the table because of the potential benefit we could get from it with grant opportunities, but it is not under my purview to just say we're closing Mountain View. That's a, you know, city council decision.
And what say does, because the west side of that is, correct me if I'm wrong, outside of city limits.
Correct, it is.
So does that decision have to be made in conjunction with the Bonner County Board of Commissioners? I mean, do they have to approve it as well, since it is half their crossing, half our crossing?
I'm working on that answer right now. I don't know. We're looking into some of that. There is actually, our surveyors, for our design team found some inconsistencies with the city boundary on the west side of town here. And I know they've been, kind of talking a little bit with Melissa, trying to clear that up and it's, in most of these locations, it's a distance of 10 or 20 feet, which is why we're trying to clear it up, because it may be that our city limit extends to contain, for example, the whole Mountain View crossing, and it's not a Bonner County parcel at all, but it also might be. So it's a weird situation where a surveyor kind of uncovered some stuff that wasn't cleared appropriately 40, 50 years ago, and now they're trying to catch up, and you know, they're having to go way back into some research to figure that out. So it could have potential large impacts that we are working with the county, with Bonner County commissioners, but I don't know yet at this point.
Okay. Do you want my first impressions as a councilman who might have to vote on this?
Sure.
I would want to see actual traffic impact studies on this. I suspect there's more than 50 trips a day that would be directed through Goodman.
Sure.
Anytime you take something away, it's going to be more unpopular than it is popular, especially when it's just, you know, for money. Like, the city's going to get more money if we take this away.
Right.
People like money, but people don't like to be inconvenienced, and directing all that traffic up Mountain View through Goodman, or this is the way I drive. If, you know, I hit a train on Gooby, for example, I turn left and then go up Mountain View, and it's rough. Like it's actually a steep dirt road going up Mountain View, and a lot more traffic would be forced down that steep dirt road, imposing costs on the county to maintain that road. So we would be creating a lot more traffic through Goodman and a lot more maintenance costs on Mountain View as it comes down the hill towards Gooby there.
And that is, I hope it's come through why I have approached this discussion with caution, because there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
You know, if you're just looking at our intersections in Great Northern as a whole, it's really easy to say, oh yeah, Mountain View, we can offline that intersection. But when you start to get into the details, there's a lot more than, you know, just saying that. There's all the things you were just mentioning, Jason, and you know, the whole, even if city limits stop at the railroad tracks or a little bit west, you know, this subdivision is within city limits.
Yes.
There's a lot of work to be done to make sure we have our ducks in a row before we make this decision. So I say this because these grant opportunities are becoming available this spring. But I'll be approaching council and various other organizations in service of making sure we're approaching this properly.
And are there besides the potential grant opportunity, are there other arguments for closing that crossing? Are there safety concerns with that crossing that we know of?
There
We have
are.
data to support that?
There are, safety is the biggest concern in closing this. And we can make improvements up here and further south, on Gooby, and that will make our money go further than improvements on Mountain View in this location. And to, I think, answer part of your question or your comment, Jason, we are also doing some intersection improvements up here on Woodland Drive as well. So if that Mountain View closure occurs and you are coming this way, to get across the tracks, this crossing here will be improved from what it is currently.
Desperately need.
It will not be a hit it at 20 miles an hour and you go airborne intersection. Maybe 10 miles. No, I'm just kidding.
We were actually a couple of years ago that there would be an actual bar included to that crossing. That would become I'm not sure what are these things called? The controlled
stop gate.
Stop gate, yes.
That will likely be in this intersection in the future. Additionally, we're also working on pedestrian connectivity across this intersection. So we will have an improved traffic intersection as well as a safe crossing for pedestrians or bicyclists that will be separated from the vehicle travel lanes.
It would also eliminate a whistle. Further south there. Mountain View.
Okay, any other questions?
Can you remind us where we are in the design engineering phases of this?
I'm expecting 60% drawings from our engineer mid to late April. And once we get those, I'd be happy to, bring them here and we can discuss them if you all would like. But we will be making some decisions on where we are moving forward. Are there changes we want to make to our layout right now, or are we good with it? The biggest item that could potentially result in changes is BNSF's review of our drawings. We signed a preliminary engineering agreement with them, which just allows them to review drawings in the end of December of last year. So once we get, we're going to probably send them a set of drawings for 60% so they can start their review. But once we get a 60% set of drawings to them, that will allow them to look at our layout. And if they have any concerns, they'll tell us at that time. The only concern that I could see coming up based on our conversations so far is the northern stretch of Great Northern is currently within BNSF's right of way. The city does not have a dedicated right of way in that location. It's again, kind of like the survey discussion I was mentioning a bit ago. One of those items that has been, in the location for a really long time, and that information has never quite been rectified. So if BNSF tells us, no, we can't construct in their right of way, we would have to shift our alignment further east to get out of the right of way. But we are approaching our, relationship with BNSF has been really good so far, and primarily our argument to allow them to let us keep the road alignment in this location is the stormwater improvements we're making as a part of this project. The road realignment obviously is the road realignment and is super needed out there. I'm sure you've all seen how much water sits on the surface out there as well. So that is at least as important as the road realignment in this project is figuring out how to handle and move that stormwater. So we're improving, the situations out here. Obviously BNSF doesn't like stormwater sitting against the railroad tracks. So our hope is that as we're showing improvement and how our stormwater plan is going to minimize that in the future, they would be more likely to say your alignment in this location is okay.
A lot of moving parts yet.
There are. And I will, if you all would like, I'm happy to keep updating you as we find more information, or I can plan to do it in, a couple months when I have a new drawing set.
Yeah, I don't think we necessarily need a monthly report if you don't have a lot of new information, but
Okay.
maybe quarterly or when you get some really good information.
Sure.
Should out. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we'll move on to the final item on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, on the other reports, general announcements, I'd just like to say, you know, as we move forward on downtown phase 3, I'd love to get together with you or other board members just to look at the projections for revenue so we can start on that design, potentially incorporating what they call phase 1 of the downtown waterfront concept into that. And just what I'm struggling with right now is how far down first can we literally afford to design and build, if it's all the way to Superior, or what kind of additional funding we'll need to make a cohesive project there. So sometime in the next month, it would be great to get together and just look at those numbers.
I will set up a meeting. Anybody want to join me?
I'd be happy to.
Okay, Tom and I will coordinate schedules.
Excellent. Cassidy, obviously.
Okay. So I work through Melissa or go to Cassidy.
Cassidy, please, yeah.
I will get that going. Thank you. A good idea to talk about that because of the funds
Yeah, we want
or
to start,
lack of.
we want to start designing as soon as possible. And we've got obviously the Bridge Street, Cliff Davis's former building there.
Right.
So we're
Well, that's one thing we've talked about in our past meetings is we didn't want to do any work on first if then the downtown waterfront design comes back in and tears stuff out. It's like, no. So that's a good point. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, we'll move on to the last item on the agenda. It's under item 7A. The city has presented an invoice seeking reimbursement for fiscal year 2024 expenses related to the Great Northern Project, rehabilitation, and realignment project. It was provided in your packet. Do the commissioners have any questions or is there any discussion on that invoice?
The only thing I'll mention on that is, after taking a look at it, you know, I know earlier on we had talked about like what percentage of Great Northern is in the, you know, the area that urban renewal can spend and what it isn't. And the invoice has been more on an itemized basis. So each individual element has been cut out, whether it's in the zone or out of the zone, as opposed to just doing a straight split. So it's actually below the 60%, you know, just kind of a straight line average. So I mean, I think that level of itemization is good. I don't know how much effort that takes to do, but you know, it's probably the cleanest way to do it because then we're not just, you know, splitting the cost, but yeah, that's just one of the things I noticed looking at it.
Again, for information, we agreed with the city when we first started talking about the Great Northern, we will only fund the percentage of the project that relates to what sits inside the Northern District.
Yeah, and I think at the beginning of the process, it wasn't easy to quantify that and split it out. Now it is, as we go into the next phases. That's why now we can. And it isn't, once we get it set up with the actual, the people who are doing, like the engineers, is easy because they just bill us that way directly from the beginning. So
It
it
was a
just
little,
takes some time.
it was a little complicated to set up initially.
Yeah.
And the first couple invoices we had to tweak and play around with to get them right, but I think we're there now. And the invoices come in very complicated, but they're complicated for a reason. And when you start to look at them, it makes sense.
Well, and I think that's the challenge too. Like, I mean, I can't look at that invoice and validate that, yes, that expense was in the zone, that wasn't, you know, whereas a 60/40, you can just say, well, we're just kind of taking everything. But I mean, as long as we trust that process, but I mean, there's no way that anybody on urban renewal, I think, can audit that to say, because I mean, it was like, what, 600 line items or something in this invoice? There was a lot.
It's pretty complicated, yeah. And if you ever want more information or have a question,
I'm good.
let me know. I'd be happy to find the answer for you. And I won't know right off my head. I'll have to take a look because it's complicated.
Yeah.
Perfect. Any other questions? Or any further discussion? Anyone from the public care to comment? There's nobody from the public. I will now entertain a motion to approve payment of invoice number 1621 in the amount of $31,531.16 as reimbursement to the city of Sandpoint for fiscal year 2024 expenses related to the Great Northern Project. Motion
Move to approve.
Commissioner Bokoe, Commissioner Welker. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing nothing, motion passes and payment will be made. Before we adjourn, I would like to announce our regular meeting for March will be the second Tuesday of the month, March 12th, usual time and venue, 7:30 a.m. here in City Council chambers. We also might have an additional meeting prior to that. We're waiting for our auditors to get a report done. They told me we'd have our draft this week, by this weekend. So then I can get it to the city. We have to approve it, accept it, and then we also have to make our annual report off of it. So we might have another meeting prior to. With that, we are adjourned at 8:11. Thanks, everyone.